My Weirder School, Book number 11. Miss Klute is a Hoot. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Chapter 4. A Real Celebrity. After a few days, nobody was afraid of Miss Klute anymore. Not even Emily, and she's afraid of everything. Our principal, Mr. Klutz, said Miss Klute has become part of the elementary school family. She came to school every day. When she wasn't having kids read to her, her job was hall patrol. That meant she would walk up and down the hallway. Sometimes she would pop into our class. Miss Klute was like a real celebrity at school. We asked Mr. Mackey if we could have her autograph, so he copied a bunch of paw prints and passed them out to everyone. He also chained Miss Klute to do a cool trick. When we came into the front door in the morning, she was waiting for us. If you waved to her, she would put one paw in the air and move it back and forth. It looked just like she was waving at you. Wednesday was Funny Hat Day, and somebody gave Miss Klute a pair of antlers to wear. It was hilarious. You could do just about anything to her. She didn't mind. Miss Klute is a Hoot. The day after Funny Hat Day was Emily's birthday. We all had to be nice to her, which was gross. But the best part was that Emily's mom brought in chocolate cupcakes for the whole class. I love cupcakes, and my favorite flavor is chocolate, so it's a win-win. I would eat chocolate cupcakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if my mom would let me. There were plenty of extra cupcakes, but Mr. Granite said we could only have one each. Bummer in the summer. Right after we sang Happy Birthday to Emily, you'll never believe who walked into the door. Nobody. It would hurt if you walked into a door. I thought we went over that already. But you'll never believe who walked into the doorway. It was Mr. Mackey and Miss Klute. Hooray! Miss Klute is here, we all shouted. Mr. Mackey was carrying a book called The Fuzzy Little Bunny. We cleared off our desks and went to sit on the rug in the corner of the class with Miss Klute. I'll be in the teacher's lounge, said Mr. Granite, taking the extra cupcakes with him. Lucky stiff! What could be better than sitting greatest place in the world and eating chocolate cupcakes? We were all petting Miss Klute and rubbing her ears. Okay, whose turn is it to start reading today? Asked Mr. Mackey. Mine, everybody shouted. We all wanted to be the first to read because Miss Klute usually cuddles up to the first reader and stays there. I want to read to Miss Klute first, shouted Andrea. You started last time, Neil said. It's my turn. I was absent last time, said Michael. I didn't get to read to Miss Klute at all. That's not our problem, said Ryan. Miss Klute told me she wants me to read to her first, I said, even though that totally wasn't true. "She did not," said Alexia. "She can't even talk." Well, she was thinking it. Everybody was yelling, shouting, and arguing. I thought there was going to be a riot in there. "It's Emily's birthday," Andrea finally said. "She should get read to Miss Klute first." "That's a good point, Andrea," Mr. Mackey said. "I would like Emily to start our reading." Mr. Mackey gave Emily the fuzzy little bunny. She looked at the book for a few seconds, and then she closed it. There were tears in her eyes. "What's wrong, Emily?" asked Mr. Mackey. "I don't want to read." "Why not?" Because why?" Mr. Mackey finally got Emily to tell him why she didn't want to read. She said it really softly. "Because you're here," she whispered. "Oh," said Mr. Mackey. "Okay, it's Emily's birthday, so I'll leave you kids alone and come back in 15 minutes to see how you're making out." "Ew, gross!" we all yelled, because Mr. Mackey said making out. "I'll be in the teacher's lounge," he said. "Can I come too?" I asked. "I want another cupcake." "No." Chapter 5. The Fuzzy Little Bunny. Mr. Mackey told us to be on our best behavior while he was in the teacher's lounge. So as soon as he left the room, Alexia, Ryan, and I got up and shook our butts at the class. "Woohoo!" shouted Ryan. "The grown-ups are gone. We can do anything we want," hollered Alexia. "This is the greatest day of my life," I yelled. Andrea and Emily were rolling their eyes and making mean faces at us. "Miss Klute is a grown-up, you know," Andrea said. "She's 4 years old. That's 32 in dog years." "Yes," said Emily. "Miss Klute hears every word you're saying. Maybe she'll report back to Mr. Mackey, and you'll get in trouble." "What's she gonna tell him?" I asked. "Bow wow, arf arf, woof." Miss Klute was staring at us the whole time. It looked like she was really listening to our conversation. "I guess we'd better start reading," Ryan said, "just in case." Alexia, Ryan, and I went to the corner and sat on the rug. Emily started to read from The Fuzzy Little Bunny. "It was a lovely summer day," she read, "and the fuzzy little bunny went hip-hop-hopping down the road. It was Monday, and that meant her mommy was going to cook up a big pot of blah 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 blah. The Fuzzy Little Bunny was the most boring book in the history of the world. I thought I might die from old age before the story was done. Miss Klute rested her head on Emily's lap and closed her eyes. "She looks bored out of her mind," said Neil the nude kid. "Maybe Miss Klute doesn't like the Fuzzy Little Bunny," said Alexia. "I can't blame her," Ryan said. "That story is lame." "I might fall asleep myself," said Michael. "I've heard this story before. The only thing that happens is that the Fuzzy Little Bunny gets to eat a carrot at the end. Big deal." "What a snooze fest," I said. I like the story of the fuzzy little bunny, said Andrea. Me too, said Emily, who agreed with everything Andrea says. That's when I came up with the greatest idea in the history of the world. It's my turn to read, I said, taking the book from Emily. I flipped to the next page and started to read. Well, I pretended to read anyway. After that, I said, the fuzzy little bunny went to the skate shop and bought a rocket-powered anti-gravity skateboard with dual torpedoes on each side. It was awesome. The fuzzy little bunny had always dreamed about jumping a skateboard over the Grand Canyon. That's not what it says, Arlo, said Andrea. You made all that up. So what? I said. Miss Klute won't know the difference. She's a dog. Maybe she'll like the story better this way. I passed the book over to Ryan, and he began to read. So the fuzzy little bunny got on her rocket skateboard and started to jump over the Grand Canyon. Ryan read. But little did she know that on the other side of the Grand Canyon, a fuzzy little kitten was taking off on a rocket skateboard at the very same time. Hey, this story was getting cool. I looked over at Miss Klute. She was just sitting there listening like always. Ryan passed the book over to Michael, and he began to read. So the fuzzy little bunny and the fuzzy little kitten realized they were going to crash into each other over the Grand Canyon, Michael read. So they both turned on their laser beams and started shooting at each other. Bam, 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 bam. Wow! I couldn't wait to find out what happened next. This was the most exciting story in the history of the world. Andrea rolled her eyes. Miss Klute just sat there listening. Michael passed the book over to Alexia, and she began to read. And then the fuzzy little bunny caught on fire. She was falling into the Grand Canyon. It looked like it was all over for her. Unless what? I asked Alexia. Did the fuzzy little kitten rescue the fuzzy little bunny? Miss Klute just sat there. She didn't seem to care a bit what happened to the fuzzy little bunny. Alexia passed the book over to Neil the Nude Kid, and he began to read. And then aliens came from outer space, read Neil. They had 4 eyeballs, 6 noses, and laser cannons instead of arms. Laser cannons are cool, I shouted. Miss Klute just sat there. If aliens shooting laser cannons doesn't get you excited, I guess nothing gets you excited. What happened next? We all begged Neil. Yeah, what happened next? Asked Alexia. Neil didn't seem to know what happened next. He thought about it for a minute. And then the earth exploded and everybody died, he finally said. The end. Neil closed the fuzzy little bunny. Miss Klute just sat there. You can't say the earth exploded and everybody died, Andrea shouted. It's a book for children. So what? I shouted back at Andrea. You can say whatever you want. Cannot, she shouted back. We could have gone on like that for a while, but Mr. Granite and Mr. Mackey came back to class. "So how are you kids making out with the fuzzy little bunny?" Mr. Granite asked us. "Ew, gross!" everybody shouted. "We're not making out with the fuzzy little bunny." "Did you like the story?" asked Mr. Mackey. "Oh yeah," we all shouted. "The fuzzy little bunny is awesome," said Alexia. "What was your favorite part?" asked Mr. Mackey. Everybody raised their hands except for me, of course. So naturally, Mr. Mackey called on me. "I liked the part where they turned on their laser beams and started shooting at each other," I said. "Yeah, that was cool," agreed Ryan. Said Mr. Mackey, opening the fuzzy little bunny and leafing through the pages. "I don't seem to remember that part." Chapter 6. My Brilliant Idea. Every day Miss Klute has to do lunch duty. That means she walks around the vomitorium looking for scraps that fell on the floor so she can eat them. Miss Klute is like a vacuum cleaner for food. She'll even eat stuff that Ryan won't eat. Sometimes kids drop their lunch on purpose just to watch Miss Klute run over and scoop it up. "Where do you think Mr. Mackey got a therapy dog?" asked Michael. "From Rent a Therapy Dog," I told him. "You can rent anything." On Emily's birthday, it was hot dog day in the vomitorium. Me and the gang were eating lunch and minding our own business when Little Miss Perfect and the crybaby birthday girl sat down at our table with their trays. Emily went to get a mustard packet. And in that second or two, the most amazing thing in the history of the world happened. Miss Klute grabbed the hot dog right off her plate. "Hey, where did my hot dog go?" Emily said when she got back to the table. Then we saw Miss Klute walking in the other direction with a hot dog sticking out of her mouth. It was hilarious. "Miss Klute stole my hot dog," Emily shouted. "And it's my birthday. We've got to do something." Then she started crying and ran out of the vomitorium. Sheesh, get a grip. What a crybaby. After we all stopped laughing, I noticed that Andrea had on her worried face. "Don't worry," I told her. "Emily will get another hot dog." "That's not what I'm worried about," Andrea said. "I'm concerned about Miss Klute." "What about her?" asked Michael. "Whenever we have reading time, she just lies there." "So what?" said Alexia. "Maybe she's tired." "Why should she be tired?" asked Ryan. "All she does is eat and listen to kids read all day." "She seems so sad," said Andrea. "She's got such a hangdog look on her face." "She's a dog," I said. "She's supposed to have a hangdog look on her face." "My mother is a psychologist," Andrea said. "She told me that Miss Klute has all the classic signs of depression." "What?" Neil said. "Dogs don't get depressed." "How do you know?" Andrea replied. "Maybe dogs are just like people, but with paws and fur." Are you saying that our therapy dog needs therapy? Asked Alexia. She might, Andrea replied. I think we should try to cheer her up. Maybe Andrea was right. Miss Klute did look kind of sad most of the time. After lunch, we decided to skip recess and go to Mr. Mackey's office instead. Miss Klute was sitting on the floor in there, looking sad as usual. What can I do for you kids? Mr. Mackey asked us. Can we be alone with Miss Klute for a few minutes? Asked Andrea. How come? Asked Mr. Mackey. We have to tell her something, I explained. It's personal. Please, please, please. Okay, I guess, Mr. Mackey said. I'll be in the teacher's lounge. Okay, what are we going to do to cheer Miss Klute up? Ryan asked after Mr. Mackey left. We could tell her jokes, suggested Alexia. You know lots of them, AJ. Go ahead, tell her one. Okay, I said, getting down on the floor next to Miss Klute's ear. Do you know why Skeleton didn't go to the school dance? Why? Everybody asked. He had nobody to go with, I said. We all looked at Miss Klute. She just sat there looking sad. Try another joke, AJ, said Neil. Okay, I said. Do you know which football team travels with the most luggage? The Green Bay Packers. Get it? Luggage, Packers. Miss Klute just sat there, looking sad. She really is depressed, I said. Those are my best jokes. Do you know any dog jokes? Andrea asked. Maybe she needs jokes she can relate to. Okay, I said. How are dogs and marine biologists alike? How? Everybody asked. One wags her tail and the other tags her whale. Miss Klute just sat there looking sad. What kind of dog does Dracula have? I said. What kind? Everybody asked. A bloodhound. Miss Klute just sat there looking sad. What do you get if you cross a cocker spaniel, a poodle, and a rooster? I said. What? Everybody asked. A cocker-poodle do. Miss Klute just sat there looking sad. Those jokes are horrible, Arlo, Andrea said. I think you made her even more depressed than she was before. Well, if you're so smart, let's see you try to cheer her up, I told Andrea. Maybe she would like it if I danced for her, suggested Andrea. I just started taking Irish step dancing classes after school. Andrea takes classes in everything after school. If they gave a class in nose picking, she would probably take that class so she would get better at it. We all rolled our eyes as Andrea danced around Mr. Mackey's office. It was weird, and it didn't seem to have any effect on Miss Klute. She just sat there staring at Andrea. See, you can't cheer her up either, I said. Maybe she doesn't want to be a therapy dog, said Alexia. Did you ever think of that? Maybe she wants to be a seeing eye dog or a firehouse dog, said Neil. That would be cool. Maybe she wishes she was a cat, I said. Poor Miss Klute, Ryan said, wrapping his arms around her. She's cooped up in here all day long. Dogs don't need to know how to read, write, or do math. They don't want to go to school. Maybe she just wants to go outside, I suggested. That's it, said Andrea, snapping her fingers. You're a genius. Ooh, Ryan said. Andrea called AJ a genius. They must be in love. When are you gonna get married? Asked Michael. If those guys weren't my best friends, I would hate them.